Hello everyone, and welcome back to Vintage Story. Since the last episode, we used some of the animal fat we gathered to oil the two bear hides and put them on the ground to cure. Then we gathered up some cattails and sticks to make some fish baskets from primitive survival. With those fish baskets, we headed to a nearby pond, and after placing them, we baited them with some of the worms we'd gathered in the previous episode. Heading back over to the red clay patch I missed nearby, we collected up a few stacks in preparation for any future needs. Some of that clay we immediately put to use making a couple more storage vessels, as early game storage can be one of the biggest bottlenecks. Before heading out, we got the pit kilns for the two storage vessels firing, though we did get interrupted by a pesky drifter, which was taken care of. We also quickly checked the fish baskets and found some various shells, a strange gear from the primitive survival mod, and 2 trout. After cooking up those 2 trout, we headed off to chop down a load of trees for a charcoal pit. With the copper axe we found in the last episode in hand, we chopped away. With some of the wild turnips, rye grain, and black currants found nearby, we made up a pot of porridge. Looking to the near future, we headed out soon after sunrise to the nearby gravel biome to break up a bunch of stones for some dry stone fences. Finally, we dug a pit for the upcoming charcoal pit, which brings us to the present. In this episode, we've got a few things I want to accomplish, the biggest being getting into the Copper Age with a copper pickaxe and hammer. Then, pretty quickly after, I plan to move on to the Bronze Age, as more durable tools are always a welcome. As we were running around last episode looking for clay, I did happen upon a bit of surface tin, which was a nice find. However, to get into metal tools, we need to get the charcoal pit up and running, so we have a fuel source that can actually melt the metals for casting. The next big goal is to start a farm. The sooner we get crops in the ground, the better. So once we're able to make a bucket, we'll get that started. Now, I did happen to make a couple flint axe heads, as we're going to need to break down all of these maple logs, or most of them I would assume, to make this charcoal pit. Now we're going to grab a couple bones and make some flint axes with bone handles, as they're just slightly more durable, and there's not a ton to use the bones for. Sounds like there's a wolf hanging out about outside, which is always fun. At least it's not a bear like we happened upon, or we decided to go and fight in last episode and it got destroyed. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. I'll put it on my back. It is getting later in the day. There's some bow torn that were spawning up here, so we'll just kind of be wary of that. However, for now, let's see if I can happen to find that wolf. Yeah, it might be over there, yep. I do have a couple nail molds going from a mod. It just makes it so you can cast nails for chests and the like. Just another little quality of life improvement. Now here is where our charcoal pit will go, so let's go ahead and start breaking down some of these stacks of logs. Need to grab it off my back. Chuck some of them down here. Alright, so you find me currently on the run from a bear, okay. Seem to have avoided it. I had unfortunately ran out of logs, so I figured, oh, I'll just quickly run over to the forest and grab some more. And I think I threw down an axe here. Yeah, there it is. And a bear decided to just sprint out from the woods and attempt to kill me. Thankfully, it's over that way, so maybe we can avoid it for now. Just need to grab about another stack, and then we'll be able to actually fill the charcoal pit. So, I'll meet you back there. Alright, back down here at the charcoal pit in the daytime, and avoiding any more bears, hopefully. We'll go ahead and finish getting it filled up here. Now we just need to finish up with these last couple stacks. And then, after that, if you've never played Vintage Story, this is... Charcoal pits can be... Oh, oh, and I think I just, like... Oh no, it's in my hand, never mind. Where did it go? Oh, it's just hanging out on my charcoal pit. Cool. I guess, we'll go ahead and dispatch this wolf. It's a lovely place to have picked to live, apparently. Full of very kind and friendly wildlife. Nobody dangerous or no bears, nothing bad. Oh, and now it's in the underbrush. Alright, we'll go ahead and hopefully be able to... Oh, there's more red clay right here. Very nice. Alright. Getting distracted. Where could it have gone? So I'd rather not have a wounded wolf hanging about. Maybe I just chase it far enough away. Oh well. It'll come back to bite me in the butt, I'm sure. There's another wolf. Maybe the same one. Probably not. Oh no, it was. Cool. Just a small jump scare to start this day. See what we get out of this wolf. Some random bits and bobs. Another benefit of getting into metalworking sooner is we'll be able to have nails, or rather, we'll be able to make planks to be able to craft barrels and get into leather making. So, anywho, now that we're not going to be interrupted, this is a charcoal pit. Again, the guidebook will tell you pretty much everything you need to know, and your pit can be 2x2x2 or 11x11x11. I like just to do a 3x3x3 starting. And then pretty much, like I said, you fill it up with firewood. And then you cover it up and place a piece of dried grass. You essentially then just make a campfire in the middle. So, like that. Grab a torch and ignite the pit, or ignite the fire pit, and then quickly cover it up. And if it starts smoking, kind of, I believe like that, then you should have a charcoal pit. Otherwise, if it doesn't work, then it will just burn all of the wood. So, I'm pretty sure I did that right, because it said you had 29 minutes, in-game minutes, so I believe it takes a day or so. Does it say in the handbook? Don't believe so. Or, less than an in-game day. So we'll have charcoal eventually today, hopefully. These two pit kilns are still going. Grab these. So that won't be hard. That won't be bad to have. We'll also grab the anvil mold, because if we're lucky enough to get enough tin for tin bronze to be able to fill up this anvil mold, I would love to make a tin bronze anvil. I just realized our black bear pelts are, or bear pelts rather, are ready to go, which means that we can actually get into making the armor. I installed a new mod. It's a adventurer's walking stick. Looks like a fun little thing. It kind of makes you walk a little bit faster, and there's different tiers of it, and it conserves some energy. Nothing too crazy from what I understand, but I kind of want to make one of these just because I think it'd be fun to have. So I'm going to run around, collect stuff to make a bunch of coils of rope, and then I'll be back with you. Alright, we're back in the, I guess our home for now. But I went ahead and grabbed up these nails and strip molds, and also got a whole bunch of cattails and some wild vines. So we'll go ahead and make up, we need 9 rope in total. So, not too bad. And then, I believe we just cut off, do we get both? Alright, this will be a good test. Okay, we did get both. Cool. We'll do that with both. And then we just need some bones. Don't know how many really. And check the guidebook once again. And I want to make the black bear hide helm. So just pretty simple. Oop. We got the hide helm, and then let's make the brown bear hide body. So 8 bones, 4 rope, not too bad again. And then finally, the pants are, it's getting pretty simple. And then finally, the last thing I want to make was that crude walking stick. Like I said, eventually we can get up to like the normal walking stick, but we need plain cloth, which, well, I think we could technically actually make this right now. It might be worthwhile doing instead of having the crude walking stick. Let's do it. We have ooh, just got spun around. Leave right here. Need 4 of these for a 4 flax twine, makes 1 linen stitch. Grab a stick, and that makes the plain cloth. Oh, do need to make another coil of rope. I believe it was this. 3 more sticks. And boom. A walking stick. I don't know if you put that in your offhand or anything, but now we have a walking stick. Alright, now if you hit C, it'll bring up your character menu, and you can see different things like nutrition, health points, etc. And it also is where you add in your different clothes and armor. So we'll go ahead and plonk in our armor. Now I have a mod called Vanity, which if I hit V, I can actually show the armor. So that is how I will look. It's pretty cool, actually. This was recently added in the newest update, this bear armor, so pretty cool. That'll be a bit more protection. Now, the brown bear pelt head, I don't know if there's anything else that we can do with it. Can we put it on the ground? Oh, we can. Now, you'll hear when we're walking, we're going to sound a little bit different. It's because we are wearing armor. Put that there. It's kind of scary because it has no eyes, but very nice. Now, armor does make you, I think, make you move a little bit slower depending on the tier. Looks like we're going to have to make some more porridge soon, hopefully. But let's go check on our... I think I might take it off for now. I wonder if Vanity actually makes the sound go away. It doesn't. Okay. I think for now we'll take off the armor until we definitely need it. Ironically, as soon as I say that, we have drifters, but they should be behind the wall, so it should be fine. That's still going. So I guess, in the meantime, we'll just have to wait for that to finish firing, or burning away, and maybe I'll cook up some food. With this beautiful sunrise comes our completed charcoal pit. So we'll head on down. Now we should have beautiful charcoal. There we go. Go ahead and clear this off. And there goes our old shovel. Now, charcoal pits, or rather shovels, are best to dig up charcoal. And I think it's the most efficient tool, but we'll get this dug up, and then we can finally get into tool making with some copper. And we're back into our little shelter. We got almost 2.5 stacks of charcoal, so not too bad, which means that we can finally get into making some copper tools. Now, we have gotten quite a bit of copper along our way, and for casting, something like a pickaxe, if you'll notice at the top here, it says up in the top, 100 units of metal, and 100 units is equal to 20 nuggets of copper or tin, etc. So we need a total of 40 because we need a hammer and a pickaxe. and go ahead and toss that in there. That'll make 200 units of copper. And one little thing, if you want to conserve some of your charcoal, you can actually start your little fire pit here with a different fuel source like peat or firewood, and you know, like firewood burns up to 700, peat is up to 900. So if you take a couple pieces of peat, throw it on there, it'll heat up the crucible, so that way you're not wasting your charcoal. And then while that heats up, the next important thing we need to do, I don't think we made any extra coils of rope. We did not. So we're gonna want to grab and make some more cattails, make another coil of rope, and then we need, I believe, 6 sticks. So that, and make some wooden tongs. I hope I didn't make any. Okay, I didn't. And you need wooden tongs in order to handle. We'll just go ahead and throw in some charcoal. 2 pieces should be fine. But you need wooden tongs in order to actually handle the hot crucible once it actually heats up. So you can go ahead and put that into your offhand by hitting X, or just dragging it in there. And this will allow us to actually take the crucible and pour it into these molds. So once this is up to temp, which copper melts at, or smelts at 1084 degrees Celsius, we'll actually be able to, as you can see, it's almost up to that temp, which means this green bar should start slowly filling up. Probably throw on another piece of charcoal because it looks like we're burning through it. And then we'll get to casting. Now, I decided to do a quick little run around the open plain here because I happen to notice that it's pretty temporally unstable throughout the area, which, again, that's just this gear. It's kind of like your sanity in a sense. And the lower it goes, you start seeing visions into the other world. I think it's called the Rust World. Now, unfortunately, it seems like most of this plane is temporally unstable. So from there to over there to there, pretty much all the way back to the woods there, following it along, and then it cuts into here, up over there, and yeah, pretty much this whole section here is pretty temporally unstable. Now, I don't think that's going to matter too much for us, because pretty much all that's going to be out there is farmland, you know, maybe some random buildings, probably, you know, a barn for animals and such, but we can probably finagle it somehow to make it in areas where it's a bit more temporally stable, by this pond maybe and whatnot. But it is unfortunate that most of this plane is temporally unstable. Again, it isn't a huge impact to my knowledge. In my past couple playthroughs, I didn't play with temporal stability on, just because it wasn't something I was a super big fan of for this. Oh my gosh! Speaking of the devil, for this specific reason, because you find the perfect base location. You know, I went through a dozen or two worlds in order to actually find a seed that I was happy with in a place that wasn't, you know, met those prerequisites I was talking about in the last episode. And just so happens that the one I find ends up being in a right next to a temporarily unstable field or plane. Now, the benefit of that is it seems like the actual mountain itself is fine, so we should be good to go there. Now, where'd that shiver go? There it is. I do want to try killing it. Oop, there's some lag. Oh wow, that was easy. So, chop it up. A little bit of flax fibers, can't complain about that. Grab our other spear. And our copper should be good to go. So we'll run in there, should be cooled down. Jump up the hill. And our copper is hardened and cold. Cool. Now, grab a couple sticks and make ourselves our first copper tools. Fantastic. Now, as I said, pretty much immediately, I want to run over here because when we were running out looking for happening upon this red clay deposit, which is so funny to me that I think I ran up this way, somehow past this one, up and around, didn't find any red clay, and then came down here. There's some ruins somewhere in this area, I think right there, and then found that red clay, and then, ran over here. But on the way back, I happened upon some tin ore there. So, how much time's left in the day? It's about 2, so maybe tomorrow we're going to head over here and dig up some tin. Now, we're on top of where we did find a copper deposit, so you should be able to just kind of dig straight down here. Make it a little bit easier, but... And, yeah. There's some copper. It is poor, so that's unfortunate, but it's better than nothing. So we can go ahead and dig up this copper. And not sure how big of a vein it will be, but I believe poor is one of the worst, or possibly the worst chunks of copper that we can find. But the reason why we needed to make a hammer is we will be able to actually crush the ore, because as you can see, we get these chunks of copper. So you have to actually take your hammer. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's how you actually get the nuggets. So go ahead and mine this out and get back to you. Get back up to the house now. Although the ruins, whatever you want to call it, our little home. I did end up getting a little bit of 4 chunks of copper. Nothing too crazy, but with that we can go ahead and break it up, get 69 pieces of nuggets. And then we also got this poor crystallized chunk of native copper, which is just kind of a cool little artifact or whatever you want to call it. But we can also break that down. I usually only like to keep them when they're from like the bountiful ore pockets or veins. So 75 in total, which isn't too shabby. Add that in there. In the nighttime, I went ahead and cleaned up the area, got rid of all that clutter, and kind of reorganized. And it's not so bad in here now. The pickaxe made short work of all that stuff, so that was nice. And I figured we'd go ahead and break open both of these vessels and see what we get. This one's a seed, and this one's an ore, so we got some soybean seeds out of that, it looks like. And then the ore vessel, a bunch of black coal, which could have been helpful, but that's alright. Now, get rid of this piece of gravel, and I guess just put that there. Make a nice little shelf, And, yeah, so it's just a bit nicer in here, I'd say. Seeing as how it's the morning, we're going to head out on our adventure. I do want to go ahead and grab this walking stick. Probably the ladders. Leave the seeds. Obviously, the organization is abysmal at the moment, but it should be okay. I am going to go ahead and throw on the armor, though, because never know what we're going to find out there. A couple spears, pickaxe. Don't need the hammer. So I think we're good to go. I'll eat some food. Now, we can actually go ahead and bring one of these with us for food. So, finally, take those out. Just put them over here for now. And we'll bring this reed basket with us. Do the shiver check. I just shoved all of that clutter on the other side of that wall. I did have to kill a shiver, so... But it wasn't too bad. And I think we're gonna just drop that down there. Get out of my inventory. And make our way... that way. Not too far, thankfully. I'll see you once we get there. And here we are. Now, there looks to only be this one piece of tin, so grab it. And hopefully, digging down, we'll be able to find some more tin. I do have 12 ladders on me. So, oh, there we go, there's some tin. It's poor quality, again, just like the copper, but hopefully that doesn't matter too much. Now, it doesn't take a ton of tin in order to make tin bronze, so hopefully there is enough here. Looks like it's a pretty small chunk, though. Biggest thing is I just want enough to be able to make an anvil. Check around, make sure there's no more hiding on the floor or underneath or adjacent blocks. There will probably be more nearby. Let's see if there's any down here. Doesn't look like it. And we'll check on this side too. There will probably be more in the area, so once we get a prospector's pick, we should be able to actually seek it out. But looks like that was all of it, unfortunately. Maybe just check a couple more of those spots. But to no luck. So go ahead and I will just put these ladders down. And then we'll just pile that up. And I'll leave those there. Hopefully we find some more. Oh, there's another bear. I happened to encounter yet another bear on the way over here. So apparently we just live in bear country. Now, I don't think I've seen much of a movement buff from this walking stick. But still a fun little thing. Kind of slows down the gameplay for me. Makes me actually want to walk around and enjoy the scenery. One notable thing that I found is this spot right up here is such a cool little area. I will actually run just to get there a little bit quicker. But it has this one waterfall that feeds into this pond. So that was pretty cool. But then there should be a shot of it in the little adventuring or the walking montage here. But you have all these waterfalls just in this spot leading into that pond, those two. And then you have another two leading into this pond. It's just a cool little area. I liked it. But yeah, so we'll head on home and see what our haul includes. Oh, and that other bear was somewhere in that wooded spot there. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough tin to make a tin bronze anvil. So I'm just heading out to see if I can't happen upon some more tin. It'd be nice. And the reason I'm so dead set on a tin anvil, or tin bronze anvil rather, is because I just think it's a much more worthwhile thing to make instead of a copper anvil, because with a bronze anvil you can work iron, and I believe, in my opinion, it's just kind of a waste of copper. I believe you can break it down, the copper anvil, to get some of your resources back, but I think we'll try our luck, see if we can't happen to find some more tin. If so, great. If not, I guess we'll end up having to make a copper anvil, because I do need... Oh boy. I do really need an anvil in order to make a saw and other various tools. So anyways, we'll head out this way towards these... I believe there's some like mountains over this way, and just see what we can find. Unfortunately, our search has brought us into this shale area, which Siderite or tin does not spawn in shale. So you can bring up your handbook and search Cassiterite, and you'll be able to see, for example, it'll spawn in basalt, peridotite, phyllite, slate, andesite, and I believe granite. But not shale. So this area isn't going to prove very useful. No way. Okay, well, we have not found tin, but we did just find a halite, which is salt. I have never seen this. That is insane. So salt is good for pickling and other stuff in this game. Of course, just another bear. But I have actually never found salt. Wow. Alright. So it wasn't a total waste. Unfortunately, it is getting dark out. I naively set out in the... about noon. A little after noon, I think it was. So, thinking, oh yeah, I'll, just pop down to the local mountain and find myself some tin and be good to go. Unfortunately, that isn't working out. So, yeah. Carrots, though. Wow, okay. The mountain gives. This is a very bountiful mountain. There's halite on one side, and there is tin on the other. Even if it's one piece, that's all we need. I will dig in just a little bit to see if there's more, but that's nice. Wow. Alright, maybe we'll actually make it home tonight. Probably not, but we'll grab up all this, because as much as we can get, I will not complain. This is a pretty solid mountain, apparently. I didn't think we'd actually find any. I was gonna just kind of head back towards the spawn area, and then kind of want to check out what looked like that one trader up, where was it? Up in this area, I think. Or no, up here. But, yeah. Can't complain. Well, we made it home safely. Didn't encounter too many dangers, just a shiver. The torches on the outside there were burnt out, so I went ahead and made a couple more. But more importantly, we found... I can't believe we found salt. For those of you who are new to the game or don't really, again, this may be your first time ever checking out Vintage Story, finding salt is insane for me. I have had, I think, 4 or 5 other worlds, I think 4, and I have never found salt, like I said. So the fact that I actually found salt just whilst running around is pretty nice. But we'll go ahead and break up this Cassiterite, get 10. Wow, I didn't realize how bad poor actually was. Well, with the amount of tin that we have and copper, we are able to make 900 units of tin bronze, which is lovely. Once again, it doesn't leave us with a whole lot left over, but at least we'll have the anvil. So, should already have some stuff in there. Go ahead and light this up, and then grab our charcoal. Probably gonna need a handful of pieces. Go ahead and put these rocks away somewhere. We should be good to go. And once again, we will want to grab our tongs, and then we can cast this anvil, which I'm pretty excited about. It'll be a wonderful thing to have, and then with that we'll be able to actually make things like a handsaw or a saw and whatnot. So even if we have to make it out of copper, the subsequent tools, that's totally fine. One of the biggest things I'm looking forward to, as this continues to smell, I'll go ahead and get ready to chuck this in here. There we go. Okay, looks like our tin bronze is ready to go. Go ahead and grab that. Oh, I left it up here. And pour it into the anvil mold. And should be exactly 900. Fantastic. The mold must be broken to remove its contents. I didn't know that we had to break that mold. That's kind of cool. Now, I do want to add in this copper while this is still hot. Or heating up, I guess. Maybe it's not hot. There we go. Well, kind of wasted a piece of charcoal there, but it's alright. Because I want to also go ahead and pour enough for some nails and strips. And while the tin bronze was melting, I made some ingot molds. And we'll fire those in the morning. Well, it's actually daytime now. We'll wait for this to melt. Need to grab a couple more pieces of charcoal. Chuck one in there. And then we'll be able to make some nails and strips. A few days later, and I did a number of things while I was waiting for those ingot molds to fire. And I also went ahead and made a prospecting mold as well. But while waiting for all that to harden or fire in the pit kilns, I used most of the granite stones out here to make 2 stacks of dry stone fences for the farm. And I also ran over to this copper spot and this copper spot and just mined up every bit that I could find because we were running a bit low. But it looks like the anvil, the tin bronze anvil, is hardened, and also the 2 nails and strips that I poured are also ready to go. So, before we get to that stuff, we're gonna use up pretty much the last of our tin to make 3 more ingots worth of tin bronze, which I'm gonna actually use 1 for the prospecting pick, 1 for a regular pickaxe, and then just an extra ingot, which I'm debating whether or not I'm going to use for shears or a saw, kind of leaning more towards the shears. And then I'm going to use just a bunch of copper to make regular tools. So we'll go ahead and grab just a bit of peat. Toss that in there. Light this up. And then whilst this is cooking, we can go ahead, grab our copper nails and strips. And then it looks like we have to break the mold. Interesting. You used to be able to actually get that, get that mold back and not have to make a new one every single time, but here it is. Our tin bronze anvil. It's a tier 2 anvil, so we can actually work iron on it, and that'll be pretty handy. Now the tin bronze stuff is pretty much hardened. Actually, it is hardened, just a little hot right now. The copper has still got a little ways to go, but I think we're gonna grab out the tin bronze stuff. And I went ahead and made a couple flint hoes and another shovel, but we can make ourselves the prospecting pick and then a new tin bronze pickaxe. And might as well actually just go ahead and get started. Is there already... Oh, there's already some coal in there. But we can get started making I think a pair of shears ultimately will serve us the best use for this tin bronzing it for now. So we can have our hammer ready. And again, you want to make sure you have your wooden tongs in your offhand when you're handling anything hot. But this is honestly one of my favorite parts of Vintage Story is the blacksmithing. The game has probably the best blacksmithing mini game-esque thing that exists. Oh, there's a barb up there. The only other game that I've played that kind of comes close to it is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It's a very good blacksmithing system in that too. Now, I think you technically can start working it once it hits 800 degrees. But so we'll grab that, put it down on the anvil, and we're gonna make some shears. Now, the blacksmithing system is kind of similar to the clay forming in that when you hit F, you can choose different tool modes. Essentially, you can do a heavy hit, which displaces a bunch of the voxels of metal, or you can do upset up, right, down, left, and those all, go in that direction, and then split essentially cuts off that piece or that voxel of molten metals. So we'll just go ahead and choose down. You can also right click when you have the hammer in your hand to spin it, so that way you don't have to run around the anvil. But we'll just go ahead and bring this all down. And then just cut out these last 3. And there we go. We got a pair of shears. Now they're hot to the touch, so what we can actually do is run down to this little body of water, toss them in, cool them down real fast, and there we go. Got ourselves a nice pair of tin bronze shears. I'll go ahead and make up at least a copper saw. Don't really need anything else at the moment. Should all be ready to go. Now that we have the copper saw, we can actually go ahead and take some of these maple logs, chop them up into boards, and then use those boards, which I believe, where did I put the nails? There they are. We can use some of those nails and make chests. So now we have actual decent chests, and you can use those chests to make wooden trunks. Like so. And now we have some actually pretty good storage, which is lovely to see. And we'll just toss these molds in there for now. That's a very good thing to have. The next nice thing is that we can finally make a bucket. Now, a bucket, you need flax twine. And just go like that. And you'll be able to get a wooden bucket. Now, in certain world settings, you can... Oh, we have these lovely chests now. I can toss that into. Certain world settings allow you to move water source blocks, like Minecraft. I have that setting turned on. It just makes the game more fun and enjoyable. So that's how we're going to actually be able to have our farm utilize the source blocks. Now, I was thinking over there doesn't really make sense because if our entrance to the future kind of dwarvish keep is right there, it doesn't make sense that a farm would be right in front. So I probably am going to go in that area, and with the shears in hand, we can go get started on that. the farm should be pretty much set up and ready to go to till the soil and then actually plant the crops. Now, I did do a tiny bit of organization. One important thing I just remembered that we can go ahead and do is we can make a couple of doors. We can finally get rid of that, so we actually have a doorway. I think I'm going to, well, actually it looks like that will count. I might move them in by a block, so let me grab an axe. Yep. There. That should be a bit better. The torch there. And we finally have that. Now I'm actually going to probably make another door and put it there. I think dirt will be fine for now. And essentially, this is just going to be a little makeshift cellar, and it should make stuff last significantly longer. Like, these are going to last for, I think, 50 days or something like that. Now 1.5 years, 1.1 years. These are only going to last 2 years, or 2 days rather, and now they're going to last 6 to 13. So that'll be nice. A little bit longer on the food. I will go ahead and grab some of these black currants, because unfortunately we're kind of down to no food. But that'll be a problem for in between episodes. I'll gather up more food and whatnot. Keep that on me. And beyond that, we're going to talk about what crops we're going to plant. We're probably going to do all of this flax because we need just a ton of flax. And then definitely turnips and probably rye. I think that'll be enough for now. Now, something to note is that in Vintage Story farming, there are nutrients, so each crop requires a certain nutrient. For example, flax requires K, turnips and rye both are N, and then, for example, onions are P. And so what this means is you kind of want to rotate your crops, because otherwise, if you just keep planting like flax in the same field time and time again, eventually the soil will run out of the K nutrient, and then you can replenish that with fertilizer, or if you stop using the K nutrient for some time, it should replenish. And each type of soil has its own amount of the different nutrients, with the low fertility being the worst, and then something called terra preta being the best. You actually have to make that through using charcoal, bone meal, and compost, or I believe you can substitute some for the high fertility here. So, now it is currently nighttime. Oh, looks like actually the sun's rising. And there's our little field there, which is nice. So I think I'll actually, since it's light out, we'll head down there and get started on tilling the field. One thing I do want to know is if you leave any grass blocks like this, how this soil has grass on it, if any are able to actually grow into a grass block, there is the chance that a rabbit can spawn on that, which rabbits will then eat your crops, and you'll be, they'll destroy them. So part of the reason why I made this field the way it is I have these blueberry bushes, or these different fruit bushes in the spots that would still have grass in between the sections, and each one of these takes a full stack for this design. It's nothing too crazy. And then eventually I'll build a little well here in the center. But for now, we'll go ahead and get this whole field tilled. So we got a pretty good amount planted. This all on the left here is flax, and over here we got the turnips and the rye over there. I will most likely probably throw in some other crops, but I think we're going to end up having 4 of those plots, farming plots. Ooh, man, it's bright. Just kind of through... Uh-oh. Well, that's not a great place to have fallen to. At least we have a pickaxe now. But, I think we'll end up having 4 of those plots, because that'll allow us to rotate as needed. You know, we'll have one for N crops, one for P, and one for K. And then we can leave one empty to regenerate, like, every summer to regenerate some of those nutrients. So we don't have to use so much fertilizer. I mean, we have plenty of space here for it. But, yeah. I think that'll about do it for this episode. Next episode, I want to get started on actually getting into the mountain here and building the entrance to the home, at least to some extent, and then actually, you know, breaking ground. Probably in between episodes, I'll make Chisel, kind of catch up on food, go hunting a bit, stuff like that, and just gather other resources. But thank you all for watching, and can't wait to see you next time.